I looked at him with a shocked look on my face, and I thought to myself, I can't believe he just said that. He just told me that my dreams were too small. And I told him I wanted to be a speaker and travel the world and encourage people to live their lives. And he must have seen it in my face. And he went on to explain, Bob, the reason I tell you that, because you're taking on a task that is a big one. And you're going to run into detours. You're going to run into challenges. You're going to run into things that will make you question your sanity. Why did I ever give up my job to do this? And if you don't have a really big dream, you won't have the strength to go through those challenging times. The name of the man that did this was Peter Daniels. We were sitting in a coffee shop in Adelaide, Australia. I had met the man originally when he was speaking with Og Mandino. He was the one that is probably most famous for the greatest salesman in the world. And I went to hear Og, and I was awestruck. But Peter spoke, and we resonated. And I went up to him afterwards, and I said, we talked a little bit, and he said, well, look, if you're ever in Adelaide, look me up. Now, as it turned out, I was in Melbourne about 2 months later. So I called him and said, remember you? Oh yeah, Bob, remember we met you in blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, if you can get here by Friday, we can spend some time. Because Saturday, I'm leaving for a 6-week speaking tour. So I rearranged my schedule and I got there. And he said, well, why don't we meet such and such a place? He showed up in his gold Rolls Royce with a license plate in the back said, I do too. And he explained to me, he said, when I grew up, I went to school, I had a learning problem. I had a speech impediment. And I had teachers that told me I would never amount to anything. I did. He said, the other thing that happened is, I went bankrupt 3 times. But I persevered and I kept working. And amazingly enough, he sold out of his property management business before the crash. Must have seen it coming. And he now was speaking professionally. He was getting, at that time, $5,000 an hour, which I thought was pretty good money. So that was my $7,500 lunch. We spent an hour and a half, and he let me share my heart and share my dreams. And he encouraged me by being truthful to me. And I want to be truthful to you. For those of you who are just getting started, for those who've been doing it for a while, you understand, or maybe you don't understand, this can be a challenging business. And for some people, it becomes a very lucrative part-time business. But the definitive word in what we're doing is business. I meet a lot of people in Toastmasters, and I meet a lot of people who even come to our CAPS meetings and some of the other groups like this who want to be a speaker. They think of the romance of speaking. You get to travel the world. You get to sleep in hotels. You get to eat out every day, which is fine for about the first week. Or when you get stuck on a plane or an airport overnight and you're sleeping on the cement, because the airports are getting smart now and putting all these dividers on the chairs so you can't, well, actually you can sort of wedge yourself under. That's one of the reasons why a lot of times I'll travel with a garment bag, so I have something to sleep on. And then sometimes the limo that picks you up is a pickup. Like when I went to Fort Simpson in the Northwest Territories. It was a pickup, and she said, by the way, we never turned it off because I got off the plane, it was minus 40. She said, it's going to get another 20 degrees lower tonight. I said, how do you live in this stuff? She said, we don't, we just endure it till spring. And I was there for a week because they only had 2 flights a week. So I said to the people when we were working, I said, I'm still here for a few days. If you want to come tomorrow, we'll talk some more. But it's an exciting business. For those who've been doing it for a while, you understand. For those who are just getting started, maybe you don't fully understand what you're getting into. But it's an exciting business. It's the hardest job you'll ever love. It's the biggest challenge you'll ever take because the challenge is you. One of the things that we were talking about earlier was money, which is an interesting thing because it's nice to have that because sometimes people want the bills paid. And it's amazing. One of the things that I heard is a lot of times you're going to get these opportunities to speak for free. Free doesn't pay the bills. I just have to be honest with you. Yeah, you can die from exposure. Not just being. Well, I don't, has anybody ever had that? Oh, come and speak for our group, but you'll get great exposure. Good. Tell my wife when I'm not paying the mortgage that I got exposure. So part of it's business. And I think the key there is to take the passion of what we want to do. And I think a lot of us come into this business because we have a passion to make lives different for people. Do we not? Would you agree with me on that? Yeah. That a lot of us are here because we want to share something that we believe and we want to help other people have a better life. When I came to Toastmasters back in 1991, I was really obvious about what I wanted to do. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to speak what I was learning and encourage people to live their lives. How many understand that sometimes people have challenges? That there are economic challenges and personal challenges and things that are happening in their lives all the time. And what they need in a time like that is help, and they need hope. And that's my business. That's what I deliver. I deliver hope that things can get better. I deliver help in terms of here's some ways that you might want to do that. That's all I do. I just get up and talk. What you see is what I do. And amazing, I still am amazed that people pay me the amount of money they pay me. I just am. There's part of me that says, don't pinch me because I don't want to wake up. But again, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the managing the business part, but the value you bring to your clients, and I'll tell you that, to be honest, most of you do not fully appreciate the value of what you bring to the table. Most of you, including some of us that have been around for a while, undersell ourselves and underevaluate what we bring to the table. Let me say that again. You undersell and underevaluate what you bring to the table. If you're speaking at a big conference or a big company, you're speaking for a Fortune 500 company or something big like that, you're not even a light on their budget. You know, I jokingly tell clients when I'm talking to them when I'm doing the seminars or the big events, the conventions, I say, look, I'm cheaper than the desserts and I'm less fattening. And that's the absolute truth. In a lot of cases, they spend more for the dessert than they do for the speakers. And yet we're afraid to ask for what we're worth. Now, having said that, I understand that sometimes you have to work your way into what you're doing. And sometimes you have different economics in which you have to play. And I heard some of that this morning. So I amended some of what I was going to say to soften it. And you guys are already talking about no free speeches, which I like. Say to me, no free speeches.
No free speeches.
Say that again.
No free speeches.
All right. Now let me explain what that means. I never speak for free. I don't always get paid in money. And there's a difference. You always get paid. Sometimes it's experience, sometimes it's exposure. There's that word. But if it's strategic exposure, it's worth it. You know? I flew to, and I'll tell you the full story later, I flew to Chicago at the request of one of my clients to do a 15-minute talk on a program that we had started for my clients. Because I was invited to speak. They had there's a group of 10 companies, and they would get together 3 times a year and discuss best practices. He said, Hooey, you're my best idea this year. So I said to him, sure, I can do that. And I'll tell you the full story later in the program, but let me just say it was worth flying to Chicago on my own dollar to speak for free because of the result. But you have to be careful because you can speak for free forever. And how many of you understand that free speeches usually get you more free speeches? And some of that is just a matter of at least, this is what I was encouraged that you were talking about, at the very least do something where you get a trade-off. You get to be a sponsor, you get exposure in terms of getting something to get to their email list or something. You get to be an official part of the thing, so you can bring your wife. You can do things. There's things you can do, you can trade it on. Because until you start seeing the value of what you deliver, you will be at the mercy of the people who are willing to pay nothing. And how many of you appreciate what you get for free? Most of us don't. When somebody hands you something for free, yeah, that's okay. Or in the dumpster, right? So don't do that. Make sure they understand there's a value. Here's a little secret I do. If I do a program where I am not getting my normal fee, and my normal fee is somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 depending on the organization and what I'm doing. And I now can say that without choking. There was a time I had trouble even saying $1,000. And what I do if I do something where I'm doing a non-fee or an adjusted fee, I invoice them for the full amount, $5,000. I show a professional consideration and then the final amount that they pay me. Because I want them to know that's what you normally would be paying. But that also reminds me that that's what I'm worth. It may not be what I'm getting paid right now, because you're just getting started again, right? But it's what I'm worth. It's a statement of value. And if you don't put it out there, people will take advantage of you. You know, well-intentioned, whatever, they will take advantage of you. So having said that, let me talk about the part about building bridges. In my life, I have been very fortunate in terms of the people that I've had come into my life and speak into my life and help me with what I'm doing over the years. Barry mentioned a couple of things, as did Alec at the meeting. You know, when I got the accredited speaker in 1998, I walked across a Palm Desert stage to the cheers of 2,200 screaming Toastmasters, and they really know how to scream. You've been to some of them, so you know. They know how to party, they know how to scream. And they were happier I got this than I was, because it was my third attempt. Because this is tough to get. But I said to somebody afterwards, I said, I may have walked across that stage by myself, but I did not get to that stage by myself. There were myriads of people in my club and area and division and district who mentored me and challenged me and kicked my butt. We had a success team, a number of us, who wanted to do the accredited speaker. And we would meet once a month and we would try out bits of our programs and we would experiment with things and we would give each other feedback. And our commitment to each other was to be non-fluffy. No fluffy, nice evaluations. If you were good, you were good. If you weren't, I mean, I remember the one time I did a presentation, a small little one, and my friend Judy got up and she said, Bob, you know, that was great. There's only one thing that would make it better. Take the opening and move it closer to the end. Which is a nice way of saying, what was in the middle sucked, but thanks for playing. But that's how you got better, because you had somebody that, and you knew where they were coming from, because they wanted you to be better. They wanted you to grow. They wanted you to be successful. That's what PSA is about. That's what CAPS is about. We'll talk about that in a minute. But same thing when in 2011, I was sitting in, I think it was Toronto. I really know because I phoned her right afterwards going, oh my God. We have a designation, or not a designation, award in CAPS, which is called the Spirit of CAPS. It's now changed slightly because Warren Evans, who was one of our founders, passed away, so they've named it the Warren Evans. And so Ravi Tangre, who's our president at that time, got up and he was saying, you know, and our recipient tonight is, you know, is this person. They don't say man or female, so nobody knows. So they deliberately play with your mind, so you don't know. And I'm sitting there talking to somebody. Yeah, this person's been a president of a chapter and done this and this and this and this. And all of a sudden he said something. And I went, whoop. I think that might be me. And it was. You know, and again, in my acceptance speech, I simply said, I wouldn't have done this if it hadn't been for people saying yes when I asked for help. So there's a lesson for you. If you're struggling, if you need guidance, if you need advice, if you need somebody to kick your butt, ask for it. Don't be afraid to ask. Most of the people in this business are more willing to help than we are to ask. That's the one thing. Sean was at an event I did in Vancouver at the GSS where we had the foundation fundraiser. You know, the highlight of the evening was me getting supposedly surprised by the passing zone. I don't know if anybody knows the passing zone or not, but they're jugglers and they're speakers and they're amazing. And I've created an event for the evening. We called it the music, the magic, and the movement, because we were talking about, the foundation as being something to support our members as being a movement. NSA had one, we had one, nobody else had one within the foundation yet. So we wanted to plan that. And to the point where when people were bidding on items, we had an auction and stuff, where people were bidding on items from South Africa, the money from that item would go back to South Africa for them to use to help their foundation, if they had one, and if not, to build one. So we had arranged with Owen and John. They said, Bob, we'd like to help you. What can you do? I said, well, could you do one of your dangerous tricks? Because I'm sure my friends and fellow Canadians will love to watch me sweat. And remember? And I'm in the middle of doing my thing, and I'm talking, and all of a sudden these two guys come out, and they're pushing this cart, and they've been there all weekend. They've been the MCs and doing the juggling things and all this stuff. And, oh, hi, Bob. Yeah, well, I thought you were leaving. Well, no, we're not leaving until 10 o'clock, so we thought we'd just come and do. There's one last trick left that we want to do, but we need your help. So the bottom line, and you can go to my website and see this, I'm standing on stage in front of about 400 people, 500 people, with my hands out like this, 2 plates spinning on each side. I'm wearing a helmet with 5 torches on it, and they're throwing knives in front of me and behind me. And my job was not to move. But it was fun. And it was for a good purpose. And I appreciated the shave. But again, it's about the people. That's if I say nothing, if you get nothing else from what I'm saying today, it's about the people in your life that make the difference. The spouses and the partners who support you when you go off, and I don't know where you're going, but have fun. My wife says when I'm going off to Toastmasters or CAPS or GSF or something, well, I get lots of hugs. That's what she says. If we're going someplace nice, she says, I'm coming with you. It's just funny how that goes. She never wants to go to Winnipeg in the winter. She didn't want to go to the CAPS conference in Winnipeg in the winter where it's really cold and really windy. But here, Ireland, I'm coming. Scotland, I'm coming. But make sure you also look at the people that are important to you. Don't lie down on that job. Well, it's funny. I get excited. The books get tired. So let me move on just a little bit because I'm talking about something that's on here. Let me just I'll carry on in a sec. CAPS is what I belong to. That's the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. I have the pleasure of being one of the founding charter members of this organization, which now spans Canada. We have 10 chapters. Some are big, some are small, some are about the same size as where you guys are. But we have a motive to get together to help each other grow. That's why we exist. Now, just so you understand, here's what happens. This is you guys. This is the Global Speakers Federation is all of these and more. CAPS, NSA New Zealand, and NSA Australia were the original founding members of the Global Speaker Federation, which was originally called the International Federation for Professional Speaking. That's what it was originally. And we decided we'd make that shorter. So that's part of what you are. You're part of a bigger group. So part of your dream, hopefully, will be to look at a larger world of speaking not only in Ireland, but around the world. And you can trade stories as you run into people in airports, because that happens. Now here's a little bit of where we're sitting now. Here's the groups as they are officially. You got that? Here's what's happening. And we've got a couple more coming. India and Spain are also coming. And there's one other one I'm not sure, forget now. But it's growing. Because you realize that before Cavett Robert started with a group of small people, there was 3 or 4 people, started the National Speakers Association. There wasn't any speakers associations. There was no circuits. There isn't. By the way, just in case you're wondering, there is no speaker circuit. There's no magical thing if you get on it. You just keep riding and you get to make lots of money and have the speaker circuit. You get to travel sometimes. Sometimes it's in Ireland, sometimes it's around the world. But before he started that, there wasn't really even an industry. So the industry has grown up, and the same thing here in Ireland and the United Kingdom. There was, 10, 15 years ago, there was even less than there is now. And a lot of people, this is why I understand some of the reluctance of people to pay, because there's a lot of people that, what do you mean pay somebody to speak? You serious? Really? We've never paid anybody in our lives. It's their privilege to come speak to us. But it's changing, because people are starting to understand that it's a business and you're bringing value to the table. And this is part of what I say. It's like, when I say the word business, a lot of people don't equate that to what we're doing with speaking, because we have a passion for it. And it's passionate, it's something that we're interested in, we want to make a difference, we want all that stuff. But if you were going to set up a store, you rent a space, maybe you put a sign on the top that says Bob's. And then you sit back and wait for the thousands of people to come through the doors to buy whatever it is you're selling. Would you think you'd want to put Bob's something so they at least had an idea what was in the room? Do you think maybe you'd want to let people know in the locality what you have to offer, and that you offer it at a good price and good service and all that kind of stuff? You think maybe you might want to do some advertising or some promotion to say, come on down to Bob's. We got a deal on something. See, we're afraid to do that in speaking, because we don't look at it as a business. It can be both a calling and a business. I'm still as excited about speaking now as I was when I first started. The difference being is I'm not afraid to ask for a good dollar now, because I know that I deliver the value. I know that when they hire me, they're not going to go, oh, we overpaid that guy. Oh man, I just did an event for Honeywell. You probably heard of them. They're a little company that does a whole bunch of different things. And their lady who hired me got up and said some really nice things at the end of my presentation. And then at the break, she said to me, she said, I'm really sorry that I didn't give you 90 minutes instead of just 60. And then she said something really interesting. She said, by the way, Bob, this is only one of 9 groups that I'm in charge of. So I said, we'll talk. The key thing there is you put the value on yourself, and then you give people a chance to look at it. Now, not to say you don't negotiate, okay? Negotiation is part of being in business, but you don't negotiate below cost. That's why I was saying in terms of, there's no such thing as free. Somebody coming here to speak is gonna, at the very least, they're gonna drive. So there's some gas, and there's some time, and there's some prep time, and all of that. Sometimes the prep time is bigger, sometimes it's less, sometimes the travel is a little more, sometimes it's a little less, whatever it is. But it's not free. And I guarantee you that most of the people that come are happy to do so. We're totally happy to give back, because we remember people who have helped us when we started. Because we remember what it was like to be suffering and struggling, and have somebody come along and say, here's an idea for you, maybe you do this. Maybe you can do that. Or, you're missing an opportunity here. You could look at tweaking your branding slightly, and all of a sudden they're going to take advantage of you, and they're going to play with you. How many of you like to have fun? How many of you have fun when you're up here? I don't see enough hands. And I say that because that is one of the things that I have learned. This is playtime. This is the fun. I've done the work. This is the fun part. I still remember the first time somebody accused me of having fun. I actually had somebody come up and said, you look like you're having a good time up there. And I thought, let's see. It's December. I'm in Cancun. I've got makeup on. I've had somebody do my hair because we're doing a 3-camera shoot. Yeah, I think I'm having fun. And I'm here for like a whole week. Yeah, okay, I'm having fun. Doesn't mean I didn't work. You do the work, then you have fun. It's kind of like somebody who's an Olympian. They do the work, then they compete. The work can be strenuous, and sometimes it takes years before they get to that final point where it's them against their competition. But they don't think about the work at that point. They think about the goal. They think about the fact, I got this amount to go in 10.4 seconds or I'm toast. And you see them in the back. You see some of the guys. I was watching one of the things, and there was a guy in the back. He was doing this before he got into the race, and I thought, he's loosening up. He's getting ready. Because being loose and having fun is the difference between bronze, silver, or gold. Sometimes a micro part of a second in being loose. That's what it is. But the professional relationships are what make your work, it makes it work, personally. You need people in your lives that will support you, not necessarily with money, but maybe in terms of supporting you in terms of, I know this is your dream. And how can I support you in making that dream a reality? Sometimes they tell you the truth. That's good too. My wife is very good on that. She's very supportive, but sometimes the support is very truthful. Ooh! But I've grown to trust where she's coming from, so I listen to it, take it, and then ignore it. No, lots of times I will do what she says, but I will wait for a bit so then they think it's my idea, Well, I mean, hey, guy's a guy, you gotta do the thing. But professional relationships are a good part of this business. If you're gonna survive in this business and you're gonna have a sustained amount of time, it's about the relationships you build with other speakers, with your suppliers, with your clients, with your whoever. For a long time, when I was in Vancouver, I would get business simply because I was one of the few Canadians that a lot of the guys in NSA knew, because I would be going down to the events. I was a member of NSA before we created CAPS. So, they said, well, talk to Bob up in Vancouver, maybe he can help you. Because here's a little tip for you. People will not recommend you if they don't know you, if they have not seen you, and they don't know you're going to do a good job. So for example, if you're doing a spotlight or whatever you call it here with your chapter. Showcase. That's an opportunity for you to show your fellow members what you do. So they say, yeah, I saw George speak. They're not going to say, I only saw 10 minutes. But they're going to say, he was good. He delivered good value, was solid. And I think he'd be a good fit for your organization. So one of the things you can do, for example, is when you're speaking locally, invite your friends to come and check you out. If nothing else, you have your own fan club. But also they get a chance to see what you do, and they get a chance to give you some feedback, just like we do in Toastmasters. You get some feedback in terms of, that was really good. This was a little fuzzy. And this, you nailed it here. Or sometimes it's just a matter of being able to just rearrange. Like, for example, we just had at the World Conference in Vancouver for Toastmasters, we had the accredited speaker program was on Saturday morning. I flew in specially because I was the chief judge for the program. And one of the things that's happened is some of us that are already accredited speakers have offered our services to people wanting to be mentors. And we're seeing the results are changing. We actually had 7 people speak in Vancouver, 6 of them earned the designation. We've never had that in our history, ever. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's very clear now what's involved in the program. It's very clear in terms of, we even give them a copy of the judging form so they know what the judges are looking for. And we've encouraged them to do that, to give us a chance to look at what you're doing, and we'll give you some suggestions on how to make it stronger, how to make it work, how to make it fun. And I'm just happy because now we got 3 new Canadians. I'm no longer alone, because there's only 7 of us in Canada. Well, actually, one passed away, so 6, and one moved to the States, so that's 5. And a couple of them aren't busy, so there's 3 of us in Canada that are actually working. Now there's 6. And it's wonderful. And my guess is that next year we'll have a lot more people applying because of the success of this year. That comes from mentoring. That's something that we talked about in the members only session earlier here in terms of doing some mentoring. That's the power of what you can do for each other. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a well-established person to be a mentor. You have an opinion, you have an observation. You can look at it and say, you know, when you were doing this, I didn't quite get it. Or when you did that, that really hit me. I really got it. And the interesting thing is, even if you've been doing this for a long time, you can still use a mentor. It's not like you ever stop learning. You know, Leonardo da Vinci was supposedly said in his old age, and yet I am still learning. I want to be like that in my 70s and my 80s. Okay, the 70s aren't that far away, but the 80s are still a way out. I want to still be learning. Every time I go someplace, like even today, I learned a couple of things that I'm going to take and apply in my business. Sometimes I get the most interesting things by just simply talking to people as I'm going on. And again, that's the professional relationships. You sit down, you talk with people, and they say, well, here's what I'm doing. And you go, I never thought of that. I could do something like that. Or I have a program I used to do, and I'm not doing it anymore. So maybe I should take a look at it, dust it off, rearrange it, make it work. Because again, sometimes we don't see the value of what we bring to the table. So professional relationships are really important. You build your business on that. Now, topic development. This is something that I get asked a lot. Because you get asked that a lot. What do you speak about? Well, I speak about 60 minutes. I don't know about you. Yeah. But do you get asked that? Oh, I'm a speaker. Really? What do you speak about? Well, I don't know. I could do this and this and this and this and this and this and 45 topics, which means you're a master of none. Let me give you a tip here. And you can use this in terms of when you're writing your books, because they're very similar. What's the benefit that you bring to the table in whatever topic it is? What's the tagline, which is the benefit? What do they get from hiring you? What do they get from buying your book and reading it? What do they get from spending time with you? What do they get from spending time listening to you? Why would they want to bring you in and expose you to their corporate culture? Why you? Why not somebody else? You know, I've asked this. I remember speaking to one of our chapters in Canada. I've had the opportunity of speaking at all of them now. And I said, how many of you speak about leadership? Let me just ask the same question. How many of you speak on leadership? Okay, how many about customer service? Not as many. Okay, good, there's a market here. How many about creativity and innovation? Okay, not as many. It's interesting, you know. See, in some places, you know, you do that, hands are going up all over the room. And what I said, I had the audacity to say, well, it's interesting. How come I'm getting hired and you're not? And that's how people think. And I thought, well, do you think maybe it's because they've heard of me and they might not know who you are? Doesn't mean I'm better. It just means I'm better known. So maybe they know me for certain things. Maybe they know me for certain skills, because I have people. Do you realize people talk about you? You know that? People talk about you. Every day you run into people, they talk about you. Give them something good to say. Give them something good to talk about. So that when you're done, they go, you know, I'm not sure what this guy's doing, but I walked away encouraged. I walked away feeling better about my job or my career or my whatever. And I walked away with some ideas that I can use. I call my company Ideas at Work for a reason, because I want people to take what I give them and actually use it. And I challenge them, because I have learned a long time ago that growth happens outside the comfort zone. You want to be in the winter zone, you got to be uncomfortable. And that's why most people don't get there, because they don't like to be uncomfortable. Oh, this hurts. I don't think I should do this. This takes work. You didn't tell me it was going to take work. Oh, I thought it was easy. You just get up and talk. You could be a speaker. You could just write a book. It's easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. There's a big difference in those two words. Ask Philip to give you the definition of those two, because I know he could. Big difference between simple and easy. This business is very simple, but it's not easy. But it's worth it. It is so, so worth it. We live in a messed up world. How many of you would agree? We live in a world with probably as many challenges facing us now, more so than, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And we take a look at what's happening in the United Kingdom or in the U.S., and we see some of those challenges coming to the surface that were always there. But now the pressure is coming, and it's coming out. Do you think maybe they need us now more than they ever did? Do you think so? I do. That's one of the reasons why I do this and encourage people to say, if you want to be a speaker, be a good one. Be an effective one. Be clear in what you have to say. Be encouraging in what you do so that people walk away encouraged to take another shot at it. Because I'll tell you, when you're speaking in almost any group, there's somebody in that audience that is just about at the end of where they need to be. They're just about ready to quit. They're just about ready to say, that's it. And you might be the only person that speaks into their lives and say, take another shot at it. You never know what's around that corner until you get there. And maybe you get that and you go around the corner and find out that success was actually there. You just weren't seeing it yet. You weren't ready for it yet. That's what we do. I believe that's what we do. I believe that's our calling. That's the calling part of what we do. The business part of it is related around the topics in terms of what areas do you speak about. Okay, look at the benefits. Do you work with companies in terms of retaining their staff and being more effective in working with their clients? Maybe you're doing customer service training. Maybe you're doing leadership training so you're developing more effective teams. Maybe you're doing something where you're tapping into creativity to make a difference in people's lives. The creativity stuff is going crazy now. How many of you understand that, like the communication stuff, there's stuff now that there's too much even to even worry about. There's Instagram and this and this. And I mean, you get totally lost. You could spend 9 hours a day just doing social media stuff and you never have to worry about working because you get distracted with the fun stuff that doesn't pay the bills. And I've been there. Just ask my wife. But topic development leads off with looking at the benefit. When I was in the kitchen business, which is what I did before this, I'd be running into people and say, what do you do? Well, I design kitchens. Yeah, okay, big deal. Unless they were at a point where, we were thinking about doing our kitchen. You get them in the moment. Salespeople, how many of you do sales? You realize sometimes there's a zone. They're in the zone. They're looking for something. And, you're in my zone now. I got to talk to you about what I'm doing, But if not, we did it last summer. Yeah, out of the zone. So I thought, well, this is boring. So I got creative because I've got this creative bent. Maybe I'm just bent, I'm not sure. And I started coming up with a new thing. Go ahead and ask me what I do.
What do you do?
I make women happy for a living.
Good.
And their husbands pay me for it. Now, that just sets them up to say, what do you do? Because they're looking at this short little squatty guy going, I don't think so. And I say, well, I design kitchens. Okay, but for a moment I had their attention. Because I led with the benefit. That's exactly what I do. If I did a good job, the woman was ecstatic. And a lot of times when I was doing it way back when, she was staying at home and the husband was paying for it. I led with the benefit. Now it's a bit different. Now they're both working to pay for the kitchen, which is fine. I know we just did our kitchen last year, so I'm actually going to write a story on that called The Last Kitchen. I took pictures and everything. I figured turn it into a book. It'll be fun. But if you lead with the benefit, then that either catches people's attention or it doesn't. But if you don't know the benefit, part of it is you've got to understand people's pain. How about you understand that when you're in this business, you're dealing, one of the ways of building your business is to help people with their pain. Help companies with their pain. Because they got pain. You got to find out what their pain is. You ask them questions. Ask them some pointy questions. Say, what's your pain? The serious problem is once the pain's gone, they don't need you anymore. So you the next step. Well, let's see if I can help them sustain or gain. Gain is the second one. Let me see if I can help them make some money. What can they gain? That's good. They're making money. They're doing better. They're gaining profit share. They're getting market share. They're doing stuff. But if they don't, after they get that, they don't need you. What if you can go out and say, let me help you sustain, so you have sustained growth and sustained profitability. I worked for a company on and off for about 5 or 6 years in Canada called The Brick, largest retail furniture retailer in Canada. And their president said to me, he said, Bill Comrie, who is you may notice the name. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But, Bill said that if you can help us out here, you could live here. And I said, well, how about if I just visit on a regular basis? So for about 5 years, they paid my mortgage. I trained all their VPs. We set a goal. We challenged the goal to say, what can you do to get above the $800 million a year that you're doing now? 14 months later, they broke the $1 billion. I had a piece of that. I didn't have any percentage of it, but I had a piece of it. That's the sad part. I've got to start learning. I have an idea, but I just want 1%. Just 1% would be good. And, or the other time I was working with Bill Comrie, and he was winning all these awards, Entrepreneur of the Year and all these things. And he was going to do a program up in Jasper. I'll be speaking in Jasper next week, or 2 weeks from now, when I get home. And so we're working on his presentation because somebody had told him, well, Bob can help you with your speech. So I did. And I said, Bill, just so you know, you're leaving money on the table, What do you mean? Because he's a smart businessman. I mean, he is really smart. And I said, well, you're speaking to all these builders. Doesn't the brick sell to builders and to people who buy their houses and move into their houses? So we came up with a program where they would offer the builders free furniture for their show homes with the option of having it for a certain amount of time. At the end, they could either buy it or give it back. So all of a sudden, we turned around. A lot of these builders throughout Alberta became mini brick stores. He told me it made him $13 million the first year. Again, 1% would have been nice. But it was just an idea because I was committed to helping him succeed. That's part of the topic. That's because people ask me. Actually, you were asking me, where did the idea man come from? That's where it comes from, is stuff like that, where I'm sitting down in conversation with people, and I just get this weird idea of saying, have you thought about doing this? Or somebody over here did this, maybe it would work for you too. Or maybe you could apply something that these guys are doing in this industry. That's where the idea man comes from. It's a commitment to helping you grow and getting there by being creative. That's all. Very simple. And I like it because it's not a lot of work. It's just, we sit down and talk. When I'm consulting and coaching people, we just talk. We just talk. And they walk away with ideas. I remember one lady we were doing now, she said, hang on. She went back and grabbed a pen and paper and said, I got to write this stuff down because it was starting to flow. You ever get in one of those modes where the ideas just blow? They just go, boom, boom. And I love it when that happens. I get goosebumps. So let's talk about this. Here's another thing. Platform mechanics. What do you do when you're on here? A lot of people have no idea. You walk on. I'm going to do this just because he said not to do it, but I pretend, no, I'm not going to. But you walk in front of the projector, especially if you're doing a big screen. You're doing a large audience, and you got the magnetrons, and you're walking across the thing, and all of a sudden they can't see anything. Part of this is being aware of the stage and aware of what you're doing and aware of the fact that you can talk to this side of the room by talking to this person. Or you can talk to this gentleman. Or you can talk to these ladies. Or you can talk to Nikki over here. Nobody gets upset that I talk to Nikki. Or Lottie in the back. Yeah. But there's sight lines, and people, sometimes you're doing that, and people behind her think, oh, he's talking to me. All you're doing is you're picking people in the business that you can make, or in the audience that you can make a relationship with. And especially, I like to pick the ones that smile, the ones that laugh, because they make me feel good. Do you like that? I'll give you a secret. Everybody who sits there like this isn't always bored. They're not always not involved. Sometimes they're just really thinking, because we do that. We go, oh, there's one person. Everybody else is smiling. There's one person sitting there going, I don't know what's happening. So we worry about it. But understand the mechanics of being on stage. If you're using cameras and you're using different things. So you're aware of it. You're using your space. Don't be afraid to use your space. Don't be afraid to be bigger than you are. I mean, in a room this size, doing big gestures would be stupid, would it not? Probably. Maybe not, if I had a reason for doing. It was this big, the fish that we saw the other day when we were out with, on wherever, Long Lake or whatever we were at. Yeah, it was that big, I thought it was Nessie, but it was the wrong part of the country, But you do it based on what you're doing. If you're doing something where you've got the big screens, you want to be bigger than life because that's what they're seeing. After a while, they're not watching you, they're watching the screens. You ever notice that? You got to play to the audience. I'll give you a little secret. Something I learned about probably 20 years ago now. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about the audience. If you're speaking and it's about the audience, they get it. They know. Plus the fact that it takes the pressure off you. You don't worry about what you do up here. I mean, you've blocked it out. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to walk over to that side of the room, except because I'm not, because I've been told not to. But I could do this. No. But you know how to play with it so that you get the maximum of what you've got for staging and cameras and lighting and all of those things. Because that's all part of what makes you look better and allows them to see you. For example, if you don't have good lighting, they can't see your face. And in a big room, if they don't have the camera and the large screens, they don't see this. And this is very much part of what you communicate with. True? It's not what you say. That's important. Sometimes it's what they see in terms of who you are. That's what they relate to. That's sometimes what makes the connection, because they see you. It's like Evelyn was saying earlier, you smile. I said, yeah, I have a good reason. I'm having fun. I'm doing something I love. Why wouldn't I smile? Like somebody said, it's funny, when I first started Toastmaster, this is a true story. Bob, I'd like to, it was a good speech, but you should smile. I didn't know I wasn't smiling. I was so focused because I wanted to be a motivational speaker. I wanted to change your life. I was so serious and I was so into what I was saying that I forgot to have fun. And when I started having fun, and I started changing people's lives and doing all this stuff that I wanted to do. Because they went, well, if he could do it, maybe I can do it. And that's the key. You want to develop something in your presentation that says, me too. So the audience is listening to you going, yeah, me too. I relate to that. I've been there. I understand where you're coming from because I've gone through that. I understand where you're coming from because I would like to do that too. Because when people get that, they start resonating with you. They start relating. And maybe they'll take your advice to say, if you want to do that, maybe you need to go here. Because you've built that trust level. Whether you're speaking for 5 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour and 15. You build that trust level to be able to say, here's what I think. My friend Brian Tracy, who has been very, very helpful in my life, he says, I've heard him say this a couple of times. He said, I might be wrong, I have been in the past, but here's what I think. Which is a nice way of saying it, Here's what I think. I could be wrong. And he's willing to share. When I started the point that I was telling you about going to Chicago, I started a program for the BRIC called Secret Selling Tips, an online training program for their salespeople. Because we had lunch, Kim and I had lunch, and Donna, we had lunch, and we talked about, because I'd done a book for them called The BRIC Way, and we had trained their sales people, or we trained our executive, and he said, I need to do something for our sales staff, and they got 1,500 people across Canada. So literally, in 15 minutes, we dialogued and came up with the idea of the Secret Selling Tips, which would be an online training program that would come to them every week. And he said the magic words. How many of you in sales love it when people say the magic words? How much would that cost? So I named a figure. No, actually I didn't. I said, so what would you think that'd be worth? And he came up with a number. I said, I can live with that. We'll have it in a month. But it's fun. It's just, this is fun. If I get nothing else across, it's fun. That's what presenting is about. It's having fun up here. It's playing. How many of you like to play? Remember when you were kids, you liked to play, and then you went to school and they started telling you it wasn't good to play. And you had to color within the lines, and you had to do all this stupid stuff. You know? I just think it's funny. My daughter's a teacher, my mom was a teacher. I was the teacher's worst nightmare. Because I'd say, why? Or sometimes the other one I'd say, why not? Just because I said so. I don't care. Why not? You know, like, prove it to me. Make it worth my while. Show me a reason. I'll do it. You know? But that's part of presenting, is having fun. I brought this along just for fun. I spoke for the what they call the PSA in France. It's the AFCP. I don't know what it means in French, but it's a French-speaking professional. And so I walked out wearing this and wearing a scarf, and I did my stupid French version, talking like this. You know, they thought it was funny. They knew I was kidding. I said, you know, I grew up watching Maurice Chevalier on TV, and he was this silver-haired man who came in and he captivated the women around the world. You know, and then I talked. And the same thing, I had another one that I wore when I was in Cape Town, South Africa. I had just been the day before to Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela spent 18 years in prison. And so I came up and I did this, you know. And then I frantically called to two people in the audience that I cued in advance. And they came up with sledgehammers, and they broke the glass. And I stepped forward and said, Mandela, when he left, he said, I realized that I walked out the door and past the prison gates that if I didn't leave the bitterness behind, I would still be in prison. Part of presenting, part of having fun, part of simple little thing and using a prop. Doesn't even take much to carry. Does that make sense? Because, I mean, this is the thing of doing something and not being afraid to push the edges. We have something in CAPS called the Rising Star. It's kind of like your speaker factor, I think. I'm guessing it's the same thing, where we have people in the chapter speak, and then at the national convention they get a chance to speak. And so one year they said, Bob, why don't you be the host of this thing? No problem. It's Friday morning or Saturday morning, whatever it was. The agenda came out, 7:30 to 8 o'clock. I'm thinking, wait a minute, I got 11 speakers. They're speaking 5 to 7 minutes. I could do the math. That's not going to fit. You know, we're splitting them into 2 days. Oh, no problem, Bob. We'll change that. Or Hooey, that's what they call me in those days. They still do. Hey, Hooey, you know, or idea man. So they came. The final agenda came out. They printed it 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And I thought they didn't get the memo. They didn't get the memo, and I thought, I can bitch and complain about this, or I can be creative. So I walked backstage the first morning. I was fully dressed. I said hi to the national president. I said hi to the lady who was the chairman of the thing, and when they left the room, I stripped and put my pajamas on. And I cued the guys with the cameras. I said, when I get introduced, I won't be on stage right away, so just make the camera go like this, and the lights and stuff. So the thing went, here, Bob, Hooey, and nothing, like nothing. And I come walking out, and I'm over here fiddling with something, you know, and I cued it in with the announcer, and the announcer said, Bob, what? There's people here at 7 o'clock in the morning? You know? Oh, okay. So then we went into the program. People who weren't there talked about it. I'd go to an NSA event. Oh, Bob Hooey, pajamas in Vancouver. Were you there? No, but I heard about it. See, if you're not afraid of them making fun of you, you can make a point. So,
did you do the whole presentation in your pajamas then?
Yes, I did.
It's like, you know, when you do a joke and then you're like,
No, I stayed in character the whole thing. And not only that, but I had one lady who used to be a stripper. This is where you just go to the extent to help make your speakers comfortable. And she was worried about doing something, because she would do sex things for men and all this kind of parties and stuff. And she was doing like a traditional, like a real motivational talk for her 5 to 7 minutes. I said, well, tell you what, why don't you do what you're going to do, and then we'll play. So again, it's one of these things like we did with the passing zone. She does her thing and she said, I'd like to demonstrate what I used to do. Bob, would you help me? So she taught me how to do this. And strip on stage. So the next morning, we had music. The first morning was the Looney Tunes on, but the show was the second day I changed it. And I came in with black velvet. You know, and I walked on in my tux. What? You expected the pajamas again? It's all a matter of having fun. It's all part of having fun on stage because the audience loved it. And it got the point across. And the next year they changed it to not early morning. They actually made it a breakout session where they could be really helped because they had a panel of 3 people that they would speak and then would get feedback. So it was very beneficial for people doing it. And I wanted them to get what they wanted, what they needed out of it, and take it from there. Authorship. We'll talk about this briefly and then we'll finish. As you notice, I have a few books. I brought some along for you. And I am really pleased to hear that some of you are doing books. Let me ask you a quick question. When is a book not a book? It's not a trick question. It's a legitimate question. When is a book not a book?
When it's a calling card.
When it's a calling card. Or when it's a sales tool. If you notice over here, I don't actually have any books on the book table. But I do have business enhancement success tools, which is the way I market it. Now, would you like me to tell you the rest of the story of Chicago? It's a good story. It's a very good story. Anyway, Kim said to me, he phoned me up and said, Hooey, book a ticket and come to Chicago. Why? Well, we got this group and we meet 3 times a year and best idea year. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll do a little 15-minute thing on what we did with the secret telling tips online, and because he was really buying it and people were getting into it. And I thought, I need to do something. So I sat down in 2 days and crafted the first little mini book, Pocket Wisdom. The first ones, they're a little bigger now, but they used to be originally designed to be able to slip it in your pocket. And so I had 12 copies made because there were 12 people in the room. And at the end of my presentation, I got up and I said very simply, you know, I understand you guys are in the sales business. And how many of you understand that you really need an incentive sometimes for people to make a decision? So here's the catch. If you sign up your sales team, your entire sales team with me today, I will create and give you one of these for every one of your salespeople with your logo and so forth on the back cover. 5 of them signed up, $105,000 for a 15-minute free presentation. So sometimes it works, but you need to be selective. You need to be selective in what you're doing. Give you something else. How many of you have a business card? How many of you have a blank business card on the back? On the back of your business card, there's nothing. Some of you have stuff on the back, okay. Some of you don't. This is not a business card. This is a mini brochure. When you give it to somebody, give them enough information to catch their attention so that they will go to your website and they will follow up with you. It's not hard, but it's simple, but not easy. It's just, and this one's actually easy, so do that. But we've got some books, just so you know. And one of the things that I do when I'm doing that, I don't know if you know that, when you have more than one, you can bundle. In sales, it's called upselling. How many of you do sales? You understand what I'm saying when it's upselling? So I simply say, like, who was it say you could get 4 for the price of 3? Yeah, that's exactly it. You know? Or in this case, you can get 3 for the price of, actually 2, less than 2. And I sell tons of them that way, just by simply making an offer. You know, there's one over there on presentation skills. I'll tell you something I did that's very interesting, both in that and on this one. I got smart. I thought, you know, I've got friends in this business. I should ask them for help. You know, when you're writing a book and you've got leftovers at the end of a page, at the end of a chapter? I don't have leftovers in some of these now. I have other people's wisdom. I got to find it now. Like, instead of having just a little leftover, I have a pro tip from somebody that is in the business. And they're happy to do that. It gets exposure for them. But one of the other things that I did, how many of you believe in masterminding, which is part of what we're starting to do this morning? I got together with some of my mastermind group about 2 years ago, and we were there for 3 days. On the third day, it was my turn. And one of the ladies got up and said, I lost the coin toss. I get to give you some feedback. And she got up and she said, well, Bob, she said, well, what about this? This is a good book, How does that relate to the Idea Man brand? Oh, she said, this is a good book. How does that relate to the Idea Man brand? Oh, here's another one. How does that relate to the Idea Man brand? She got to this one, she said, this one relates to the Idea Man brand. Challenge for me was to go back and work on it. So I went back and reorganized it. I came up with an idea I actually came up with a phrase called idea rich. Like you're enriching something. So running too fast, which is about time management and using your time wisely, is idea rich strategies to lead and still have a life. Idea rich strategies for serious leaders. Idea rich techniques to master your message and power up your presentations. Simple, all the way through. Some of them I even changed the title. This one we sold thousands of copies, and it had a really original title. It was called The Secrets of Effective Customer Service. And I thought, wait a minute, when you're really doing a good job taking care of your clients, what are you doing? Make me feel special. If you make people feel special, they come back and they buy from you. And this one here is this latest one we just did. It's about getting not the first sale, but the second and the third and the fourth. Because people are so excited to, I got the deal, I got the gig. It's like with me with Honeywell. And now she's saying, by the way, this is only one of 9 groups. In my mind, I'm going, there's an opportunity here to do a little more work for her with the other groups, some of which are in Europe. So I might be back, who knows? It's a matter of leading with the benefit and having it so that you sell, just like the topic development. Sales and marketing, everything you do is sales and marketing. Everything you do is sales and marketing. And promotion. Pat was saying when we were sitting at his place, he said, I love the fact that I'm wearing a t-shirt that says Bob and IdeaMan.net. It's all marketing. It's not clothing, it's a marketing budget, which is tax deductible. Just a little tip. I used to have, and it works. I had a lady, I was sitting in a Starbucks in Denver. And I saw this lady come in and she got her coffee and she looked over. And she came over to me and she said, what do you do? So I told her, could I have your card? I have a team of about 55 people. Sales and marketing. See, the difference is sometimes you have fun though. I had a lady come up to me on a plane and she went, oh my God, I've been looking for you my whole life. And then she looked, she said, oh, it says Idea Man. She had thought it was Ideal Man. Well, think about it. If I was an Ideal Man, do you think I would advertise? I mean, come on. But if they don't, the key thing, as I said earlier, if they don't know who you are and they don't know what you do, they'll hire somebody else. Realize that for most of us, we're commodities. If you become a brand name speaker, that's different. But for most of us, I still get people calling, and it's somebody's assistant. Hi, we need a speaker for our event on sales or on marketing or on leadership. That's what she's been told by her boss. Go find us a speaker for this event. Don't be a commodity. And you can work to make sure that doesn't happen. So they get to the point where they say, go find Bob Hooey, or go find Jim, or go find Iman. You can do that with your marketing and what you're doing on your websites and whatever you're doing gets that along. Here's a few things you can play with. I just put this in just as when I'm talking to clients. I can give them teaser articles, to help create interest in the event before it's coming. I can reinforce articles afterwards to reinforce what I've talked about. And I'm happy to do that because I've done a fair amount of writing. I've written lots and lots of articles. So I'm happy to do that, to say to a client, I'll give you some stuff that you can use as teasers to get people excited to come to the event. And after we're done, I'll give you some stuff to reinforce what we've talked about together. So maybe they'll actually act on it and do it. Because it's the results that count. When you deliver and the results happen, they love you and they talk about you. And that's where you get additional business. You know, radio call-ins, advanced print interviews, TV. If I'm there and you want to do it, I'll be part of a panel during your convention, you know, with other speakers. I'm perfectly willing to do what I can because I tell them, when they hire me, I tell them, I am on your team. I'm a partner with you in making this event successful, whatever that takes. You know, create a special resource webpage. I very often do that. You know, there's a bunch of stuff, you know. If you're going to have me there for a full day, why don't you have me speak at a college or other place on your behalf? I'm happy to do that for free because they've paid me for not free over here. But while I'm there, it helps them in marketing within their organization and within their community. I'm happy to do that. You know, just things like that. Have me speak a second time. You save the airfare because you don't have to hire another speaker. Sorry to say that, but sometimes that's the way it works. And then managing the business. There's 2 points to talk about. Managing the business is where the rubber hits the road. Let me give you, how many of you get retainers? Some people call them deposits. I call them retainers because like a legal person or other professional person, a retainer is not money you've earned, it's a money to retain your services. A deposit is part of the purchase price. And one thing somebody told me many years ago, never live on your deposits. Don't run your business on your deposits. I've got a five city tour coming up a week after I get back. They already paid me the whole thing, which surprised me because usually I have to wait for half of it in the retainer and the other half 7 days before. But the money's put aside because I haven't earned it yet. So we'll book the cruise afterwards. Well, that's part of the deal now, is I keep working because now we get to travel or come places like here. But that's part of managing the business in terms of the finances and budgeting and all that stuff that, oh, really, I should be doing that? Yeah, you're running a business. Have you ever had, too much month left at the end of your money? That's embarrassing if you're in business and you've got bills to pay. I'm sorry, I'd love to pay you, but I've already spent the retainer and I haven't earned the other half yet, so, will you wait? No, I don't think so. Do you really want your phone? But that's the managing your business part. It's important. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is something that has impacted our industry immensely. Technology, you think about it. When I started, if people had a fax number, it was a big deal. You almost proved you were in business because you had a fax number on your business card. Look at me, I'm a real business person. I have a fax number. Then after a while, it's like, no email? And after a while, it's, what do you mean Hotmail? Or Yahoo? Or Gmail? Don't you have an email that goes to your website? People judge you based on stuff like this. They judge you in terms of, are you really in the business or are you just playing? But technology will allow you to do, like for example, we were talking to Alex earlier about it. When I was keynoting in Cape Town for their conference, I Skyped into both of they had 2 chapters in South Africa. I Skyped into both of them for a meeting and gave them a little teaser, about 20-minute teaser about what I was going to talk about to get them to come. Skype allows you to do that. Zoom allows you to do that. There's so many new things on the market now that allow you to be face-to-face. You could be sitting in your bikini, because we were talking about that earlier, with your cover up on because you don't want to get them excited, talking business. You could be sitting in your pool, which here, temperature-wise, doesn't work for you, I know, but that's, But you could be sitting, when you were there, you could have been sitting and say, well, it's really warm here, but let's talk about your business, how I can help you, how I can help your staff. I'm going to bring some really valuable stories and expertise to the table. You guys will be more successful. You'll make more money, and you'll bring me back every year. That's the technology part.
Well, on that, you've got 15 books and iBooks, fantastic. And there's no audiobooks. I think you're a fantastic orator. Do you think you could actually, utilize that skill set to add more value to the area and other people in terms of audiobooks as well?
Probably. I hadn't thought of it. You mean doing voiceovers and those kinds of things? I hadn't thought of that.
Reading your own book.
Ah.
Yeah, it's just his wife hasn't gotten to the technology yet.
Well, I'll have to tell you that. This is the advantage of having a very smart woman in your life who came from a research background. When we first met, she was doing web design for other people, and I went, oh, I have a web designer, but I had just moved from Vancouver to Edmonton, and my web designer was in Victoria, so it's kind of tough to really get together. Well, I can help you with that. And anyway, the long story short, she started helping me. It was cheaper to marry her than to keep paying her. But no, I mean, in the truth of it, she's very smart at what she does. And like when I started the secret selling tips for the brick initially, before we expanded it, I came home and said, by the way, I got a great idea. We're going to add video to every time we send one out. And she said, well, I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, not yet. And a month later, we started adding video. I got a chance to go into their studio, and I would use their teleprompters because they got really good at doing it. I could do it in an hour. I could do 21-minute little videos. Bang, added value, added connection, added something. And I do that very often now. I will be, for example, how many of you would like to come to New Zealand in February? February 22nd to 26th in Auckland, New Zealand, we're having the Global Speakers Summit. Happen to be on the program. I'm leading a 2-hour advanced workshop on how to get booked internationally with 2 other people that are smarter than me. And I say that because they're doing more. Although we just figured it out in the last couple of days, I've actually had the chance of working in 21 countries. I've only been to 53. But I'm getting there. I'm learning. And I'm hoping I'm going to learn more from these guys. And we'll probably do a book that we'll give to all the people who attend, just because that'll give me an excuse to talk to all the people around the world that do the same thing, saying, give me some tips, because I'm going to share them to all these people that come to Auckland. And of course, I'll learn from the experience. But that's part of it. I was going someplace with this. I forget where I was going. But it's important to take advantage of opportunities to do things, because that's how you learn. And it's important to take advantage of things that will allow you to increase your reach, increase the service that you bring to the table, because people need what you're doing. I'll share with you one quick story in closing. Alex told me I could take a little more time, so I did. A number of years ago, I was in Cancun. First time I went there and was paid. That's where they said, looks like you're having fun up here, And so 3 of us, myself, the organizer, and one of the other speakers, went to Chichen Itza. Anybody been to Cancun? No. Okay, you have. They got these little squat pyramids that the Aztecs and stuff, they used to, if you didn't like you, they chopped your head off and took your heart out and all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, we got there about dusk, and we're walking up, and I'm in about as good shape then as I am now. We're walking up, climbing up these little stairs. And I hear this voice. And this voice says, leave this place. I went, what? I look at the other guys, and so I go, as I tell her, as a Toastmaster, I'm afraid of anything. So who's talking? It's God talking. Now, he talks to me on a regular basis, but just doesn't usually talk to me in the daytime. So I said, so what do you want? I want you to leave this place. I want you to be obedient. I want you to walk down across the parking lot, about 200 yards into the jungle. You'll find a dry stream bed. And I want you to grab some pebbles and put them in your pocket. Don't look at them until tomorrow morning. But I want you to remember today, because today will be the best day of your life. But I also want you to remember today, because today will be the worst day of your life. So I went down, walked across the jungle, picked up some pebbles in my pocket. We met for 6 o'clock the next morning, and I having breakfast, getting ready for the last day. And I went, did you remember this yesterday, pebbles? Yeah. I pulled it out. Unbeknownst to me in the darkness, what I thought were pebbles were gold nuggets, little flakes of gold in these things. I thought, how cool is this? I'm richer now than I was yesterday. So I thought, that's cool. So I got on stage and I said, yesterday was interesting. We went to Chichen Itza, best day, worst day. I understand best day because I'm richer now than I was yesterday. I don't get worst day. So I introduced the first speaker. The second one came on, I thought, folks, I just figured out what the worst day was. I could have filled my pocket with pebbles instead of just taking a few. See, you're in an interesting industry. You have a chance to learn from everybody you meet, and they'll all give you nuggets of wisdom. What you take is what you get, and make it your best day. Thank you so much for having me.